Hello guys, my name is David, and in this video I will talk about how to create to-do application using JavaScript. First of all, we have our HTML file. So first of all, we link the CSS file to HTML. Here is my CSS file. I did some styling here as well as creating background picture. In my HTML file, I have my title, I have my body, and I created two buttons, button search and button add, which creates additional uh, additional nodes in my to-do list. And finally here I referenced my jQuery file to my HTML as well as my main.js file. Now let's move on to the main.js file, which is responsible for taking requests from the server. Once the page loads, the function draw request will run, which contains Ajax URL to-dos, type get, which is set as default, data type JSON, and data loading the page, which will be sent to the server. If the function gets any error, it will print error occurred. Otherwise, it will not print any error messages. Next up, we have function update to do, which has Ajax URL to do plus to do item and type put. Following up, we have function delete to do, which also has Ajax URL to do's plus item to do and type delete. If an error occurs, it will print could not delete the item, and otherwise it will not print any error messages. So next we have another Ajax with its URL, with its type, data type and data, with a message val and completed set to false boolean. So if this gets an error, it will write error creating to-do node. And finally, the final Ajax function is URL to do's, type get, data type JSON, and if this function gets an error, it will print you screwed up, and otherwise it will not print any error messages. Finally, we have the server.js file, which is the server. We have here multiple functions as well. We have const HTTP server equals require HTTP, const fs require fs, const URL require URL, const query string equals require query string. We have let to do's. We have three different messages and booleans for them. They're all set to false. We have HTTP server create server function and two different values for the function. We have const parsed URL equal URL dot parse and rec dot URL, const parsed query equal query string dot parse parsed URL dot query, and const method equal rec dot method. So here is how to serve the file to the client. So we create the function and we write if it returns error, then we write status code 404 and which prints a file not found. Otherwise the status code will be 200 and it will end the function. If the request is for to-do items, we write if parsed URL dot path name dot index of to-dos is bigger or equal to 0, and execute if the client requests the items. We write if method equals get. If rec.url index of to-dos equals 0, and res.set header content type application JSON. Let local to-dos equal to-dos filter and send the data. If parsed query search content, local to-dos equals to-dos.filter function obj, which is object, and return obj.message.index of parsed query search text bigger or equal to 0. And finally, if a search string empty, send all data. This is how we do it. Then we have if method equals post, and we write if rec.url index to-dos equals 0. Read the content of the message, and this is how it's done. Then we have if method equals put if rec.url index to-dos equals 0, let received ID equal rec.url sub srt 7, 4, let I equal 0, I less than to-dos dot length I plus plus. If to-dos I.id equals received ID. And this is how to flip the value of the completion status. And if it turns error 404, we write error not found. And finally here, if a method equals delete, we write if rec.url.index of to-dos equals 0, let id equal rec.url.sub srt7, for let I equals 0, I less than to-dos length I plus plus. If id equals to-dos I.id, to-dos dot splice I1, res.status code equals 200, and then return a res.end which prints successfully removed. When a res.status code is 404, it will print error not found, and this is the port that it will print the server. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.